Always a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Chinese companies continue to expand their management as homegrown companies diversify and globalise their operations. Telecommunications giant Huawei Technologies is the latest to do just this, with the establishment of an Australian board of directors to manage its Aussie operations. It's the first such move Huawei has made outside of China. And joining us now to discuss this is Jeremy Mitchell from Huawei. Jeremy, look, great to have you on board. Big announcement for the company. The first localised board outside of China. The immediate thought for being the reasons behind a move like this, most people would suggest, would be the NBN coming up. Is that one of the major reasons?
No, certainly not. Our operation here in Australia has grown dramatically. We now actually work with every telco in Australia. We're seeing a doubling of our staff this year alone, and so our business in Australia is growing. We recently just won a Vodafone contract to replace their whole wireless network. So Huawei Australia is becoming a big entity in the Australian market. So we see this as a investment in that business, but also localisation's played a big part of Huawei's global success. 70% of our sales are now outside of China. So we see ourselves as an international company. And what we do is we have local management, we have local staff. 80% of our staff here in Australia are local, and we see this as the next step in developing that localisation strategy.
But certainly I would have thought a $36 billion NBN that is going to take, or likely to take place, is going to be a big part of your and any, so I suppose, telecommunication line business's future here in Australia?
Well, look, obviously Huawei is the #1 provider of national broadband networks. We're building the Singapore NBN, we're building the United Kingdom for the last 5 years. So obviously it would be something that we would like to do, and obviously that's up to NBN Co, and they have yet to announce the second GPON vendor. But can I say, this is not about the NBN, this is about our Australian business. And yes, it would be great to play a part in the NBN, but if we do and we don't, does not determine our future here in Australia. So this is, as I said, part of localisation strategy, which I think has won us many contracts here in Australia, but also globally, and we want to continue that.
In terms of the board, how many people would be making up the board, and who would you be targeting?
Well, we've announced that we will have representatives, obviously, from our headquarters, from our regional office and from our local office, but we'll also have 3 independent Australian board members, and they will govern the strategy going forward for Huawei. Here in Australia, they would obviously have a role to play in and actually determine the management, senior management structure. So it's a very big step for us. We had to determine whether or not we do an advisory board, which some companies do, or actually a full-fledged board of directors, and we've gone down that route.
Look, a big discussion at the moment, at least in the past few weeks, is about the representation of women on boards. Is that going to be a focus when putting together the makeup of the board? Well,
first of all, we want to appoint people because they will contribute something to that actual board. So we won't be going out on people on the board purely because of their male, female, Chinese, non-Chinese. It will be about what sort of skills they will be able to bring to the board. Can I say our global chairperson is Madam Sun, so she's a female. The vice president's female, so females are very well represented with Huawei globally.
In terms of the global operations of the company, is there any is there any issues associated, I suppose, with the stigma that is sometimes attached to the company, in particular with its historical links to the People's Liberation Army within China?
Well, I mean, first of all, the only link we have is that our founder and CEO was once a member of the PLA. Like many of his generation, he was sacked from the PLA with 1 million others in the early 1980s and has had nothing to do with them since. But look, we have been, and we acknowledge this, probably not good at selling ourselves. We've been a business-to-business with a business-to-business mentality. We're now actually going forward with a brand into the actual consumer market in our handsets. We're also getting bigger globally. We're the #2 player in the world, and if you believe some analysts say we may be the #1 in the next 1 or 2 years. So people are naturally wanting to know a bit more about us, and we'll admit fully that we haven't done a good job in selling who we are, telling people what we're about, and that's changed in the last 12 to 18 months. So I think those sort of stories have come about because of our lack of ability to tell people who we are, but I think they will disappear as people realise what we do and what the success we've had internationally.
All right, Jeremy, we wait with interest to see who is appointed to that board. Look, thanks very much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
And that is all we have time for. We do have to take a short break. When we come back, more trading day, so stick around.